Hello. Welcome.
So she's going? Yeah. I got it when you were going.
Heart and oh, it's wonderful to be here with you today. I was just saying to Culver how ebullient I feel after this morning, and how effervescent, and how inspired, and I just want to stomp my feet and dance a jig. It's very nice to be here. I want to thank Culver for opening up the doors to me and to the Baha'i faith, and for you folks to be opening up your hearts. And Danielle is my inner child. Yeah. If I could be out here like Danielle was, that's what I would be doing. I'm not Danielle, but she's inside. So as I try to be express my excitement and my hope for humanity, just know that Danielle is in there jumping around with me. So I would also like to thank Diana Geiger for coordinating my activity here today. We are in preparation to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, the glory of God, meaning the glory of God, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith, and we will observe that on Sunday, November 22nd of this year. So, before I begin, I think it's important for you to know that I'm not presenting myself as a spokesperson for the Baha'i faith, but I am a person that believes in the Baha'i story. In my opinion, behind every belief is a story, and behind every story is a person. Also, I'd like to say that I'm not here to persuade you or to argue with you. I do not wish to make a weapon of my words, and I am not seeking agreement with what I have to say. Rather, I will speak from my experience and from my heart in the hopes that you can gain an understanding of me and what I believe. In this world, as Danielle was speaking of earlier, we are in a world of polarizing conflicts. And I look for a new language of conversation. I hope for the possibility in which people can disagree frankly and passionately, while at the same time contributing to a more civil and compassionate society. And one of the things I like about what happened here this morning is I can tell that you are used to talking with and among one another, and I would like to encourage that. So what you have received from Diana is a handout with a pencil, and I'm going to invite you to reflect upon your own story and your own belief. I call this handout, "What color is your tile?" My version of humanity's story is the image of a glorious mosaic, a divine mosaic, without beginning, without ending, where each distinct tile is essential to the transcendent splendor of God's plan. So that's why I have titled my presentation today, Essential Partners, the Oneness of Humanity, and the Equality of Women and Men. So if you read the handout, there are 3 questions, and I would invite you to join and share in this dialogue. So if you are inspired to do so, I would welcome that. I'm much better being part of a conversation than I am being up here talking to you. So the 3 questions begin with, number 1, what talent or ability energizes you and that others might not know about you? So that's one to consider. The second is, as our world gets smaller, in what unexpected ways has your understanding about human rights changed? And the last one, the third one, is what stereotype do you least want to categorize you and why? So, to begin with, I would like to share a Baha'i prayer. Baha'is have the bounty of numerous sacred texts, and this is one of them that I especially like. It's for mankind, prayer for mankind. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at a table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind God, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father, God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one that overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind. Thank you for listening. So, I'm going to answer those 3 questions. And like I said, please, if you have anything to add from your own experience, I would welcome that. So, what talent or ability energizes you that others might not know about you? I would have to say that scientific investigation is what excites me the most. When it comes to science, I can't pass up the magazine rack at Barnes & Noble without picking up the latest copy of Geographic or Archaeology or Scientific American. When my children were young and I began searching for an organized religion, I knew that I didn't want one I had to argue with over my understanding of the natural world. I wasn't seeking an epiphany or a booming voice coming down from the heavens. I am practical. I am pragmatic. What I wanted was a religion that made sense to me. So, back in 1966, when I was a freshman in college, I was first introduced to mankind's early religious curiosity. In an attempt to soothe my anxiety over the spring finals that year, I started reading a book by James Michener called The Source. And if any of you have read James Michener, you know they are sagas. So I enjoyed reading that, and my final week went much better than if I had been studying. So, The Source is a historical novel about an archaeological dig of a tell. A tell is an ancient mound of earth composed of layered debris of cities long gone. On the surface of the book, The Source, it is about Judaism and the establishment of the State of Israel. But in the supporting narrative, not only are the depths of the tell unearthed, but also the source of humanity's religious consciousness as well. The chapter I like the best, titled The Bee-Eater, appears early in the book, where Michener tells the story of the oldest of the archaeological layers, dating back to 9,831 BC. So that was a long time ago. In essence, the Bee-Eater deals with the transition of human life from hunters and gatherers to the appearance of agriculture and the beginnings of settlements. The character Ur is a hunter and begins probing the mysteries of life and death by asking questions such as, why do I live? Why do I live? Eventually, Ur's wife erects a sacred monument at the tell in recognition of the transcendent forces of nature that were only dimly perceived by these earliest characters in the book. Michener's The Source sparked an enthusiastic about archaeology, and I still enjoy it today. So, just as Ur had questions about the purpose of life, the principle of the oneness of humankind is the pivot around which all Baha'i teachings revolve. The world civilization to which humanity aspires is one where the material and spiritual dimensions of life are in harmony. The material aspect of civilization, such as commerce and governance, are suffused with spiritual principles like equality and justice. Oneness, of course, should not be confused with sameness, which is a tedious, artificial thing entirely alien to the world where no two grains of wheat have ever been alike. One Baha'i text that relates to this concept goes as follows. The well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is established. The well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. Another states that religion should unite all hearts and cause wars and disputes to vanish from the face of the earth. It should give birth to spirituality and bring light and life to every soul. If religion becomes a cause of dislike, hatred, and division, it would be better to do without it. Any religion which is not cause of love and unity is no religion. I think humanity is on a remarkable journey. Homo sapiens, as the dominant human species, populates the planet. They spread from the heartland of human evolution in Eastern Africa to Europe and Asia. They find homes in the coldest and hottest climates on Earth. They migrate to North and South America. They challenge the Pacific Ocean and discover Australia, and even find places to live on the islands of the Pacific's vast waterscape. It takes all of human history, over 200,000 years, for the world's population to reach the first billion people on Earth. That happened in 1800. In the next 200 years, by the year 2000, there is an exponential explosion of more than 6 billion people on Earth. In my opinion, this extreme phenomena compels a paradigm shift in the nature of essential human relationships. The consequence of over 7.5 billion people being crowded into the land mass on Earth has to result in an extraordinary redefinition of humanity's frame of reference. To me, it is as radical a change as Galileo's 17th century sun-centered model of our solar system. Today, we're reaching critical thresholds. Choices we make could affect the future of our species and all other life on Earth. I take heart in a Baha'i quote from Baha'u'llah that says, "So powerful is unity's light that it can illumine the whole earth." So powerful is unity's light that it can illumine the whole earth. Another example is, be perfect in unity. Never become angry with one another. Humanity is not perfect. There are imperfections in every human being, and you will always become unhappy if you look toward the people themselves. But if you look toward God, you will love them and be kind to them. For the world of God is the world of perfection and complete mercy. In the age of Michener's bee-eater, human beings had already begun the process of unification. Single-family units gathered together into tribes and clans for protection. Hunters and gatherers gave way to an agricultural lifestyle, supporting communal villages that in turn provided resources for centralized city-states. Organization of people into kingdoms and dynasties coalesced wealth into today's myriad world powers who are finding their nations inexorably compelled into an order of increasing complexity and interdependence. A cursory examination offers the following examples. Food production and distribution unites us. Financial markets unite us. Disease, hunger, and poverty unite us. Environmental protection unites us. Trade unites us. Music and art unites us. Transportation unites us. Human rights unite us. Cyber communication and hacks unite us. War and terrorism unite us. An apt analogy of worldwide integration is how organs of the body, parts and members, are intermingled and connected for mutual aid and benefit, and how much they influence one another. Millions of cells of the body organize into a diversity of form and function to play their part in maintaining a healthy organism. the principle that governs the functioning of the human body, as well as the body of mankind, is cooperation. Our various parts can no longer afford to compete for resources. Instead, we must build essential partnerships of give and take. A Baha'i quote I like is this one: "It is not for him to pride himself who loveth his own country, but rather for him who loveth the whole world. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens." The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens. So, the second question, as our world gets smaller, in what unexpected ways has your understanding about human rights changed? I have just said that I believe in world unification and a harmonious spiritual stewardship. Having said that, for the sake of humanity's existence, I admit I'm concerned about how the oneness of humanity will be accomplished. I have an ideal Baha'i world vision, but I have questions. It is a constant effort to understand and translate moral principles of the Baha'i faith into concrete action. Where are the essential partnerships by which communities will be shaped and developed? Human beings expend themselves in conquest of nature and meaning. At the present time, we are riding a breakneck wave of fantastic and frenetic achievement, the tremendous implications of which are inconceivable. I am in awe of the potential for both good and bad. Baha'is understand the progress of humanity as a global enterprise whose purpose is to bring prosperity to all peoples, an enterprise which is viewed in the context of an emerging world civilization. That sounds like Danielle's word, emerge. Although I see the principles of the Baha'i faith as essential resources for understanding and dealing with the challenges facing communities around the world, I also acknowledge that no one single belief can lay claim to perfect understanding or complete knowledge. Baha'u'llah, the glory of God for this age, tells us that all human beings have been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. All human beings have been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. He also says, "Be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements." And again, this admonition, which I take to heart, says, "O brethren, let deeds, not words, be your adorning." At the heart of my quandary is the subject of human rights. If you look inside the human body, you won't find a single human right. A human right is not a tangible thing. It's an abstract belief, a story that has progressed gradually from one age to another in a procession of small steps throughout humanity's history. So I'm going to give you a synopsis of some important events that brought us to our present stage of the understanding of human rights. One of the earliest notions of a human right is found in a code of conduct written in 3100 BC in Egypt. Almost 1,000 years later, the first example of a legal code seeking freedom and equality to fight corruption is recorded in Mesopotamia. And around 1790 BC, the Babylonian king Hammurabi writes the first law code having punishments, encoding the principle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. In the 10 Commandments of the Torah, Moses proclaims standards of moral conduct towards others. And interesting, several centuries prior to the first millennium of the current age, human right ideas flourished among a variety of cultures. The ancient prose of the Hindu religion is organized and arranged into scripture called the 4 Vedas, in which the Upanishads attest to the principle that individual actions have ongoing moral consequences. About the same time, Cyrus the Great of Persia, inspired by the teachings of Zoroaster, set down reforms which protect religious freedom and diversity. This instrument is considered a precursor to today's Declaration of Human Rights. In China, the teacher Confucius explains the highest virtue is to love all men. Roman values emphasize selfless service to the community, individual honor, and the necessity of universally applied law, which is also a fundamental right of our current human rights law. During its golden age, under the leadership of Pericles, Athens experimented with democracy. The first expansions of Buddhism in India protect the rights of the poor and vulnerable, emphasizing goodness, kindness, and generosity. Jesus of Nazareth, the central figure of the Christian faith, preaches the virtues of love thy neighbor as thyself, and for those without sin to cast the first stone. Moving on to the 6th century AD, the utterance of Muhammad are recorded in the Quran, emphasizing racial and religious tolerance, charity and equality, and granting women greater autonomy. In England in 1215, a defeated King John is forced to sign the Magna Carta, establishing the basis for the Bills of Rights. The Magna Carta remains central to the development of the British and American criminal justice system. Several years later in North America, the Iroquois Constitution is created, forming a confederacy of 5 independent American Native nations. Among its many statutes, the Iroquois Constitution creates a democratic government with rights and responsibilities, and a religion with a belief in a creator. It becomes one of the influential documents in writing the United States Constitution. In our own history, in 1776, the United States Declaration of Independence proclaims that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 11 years later, the United States Constitution creates a national government with a system of checks and balances and divides power between the federal government and the states. In addition, the first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, provide immunities for the individual to protect from tyranny. So I'll fast forward through a history of wars, treaties, and documents to 1948, after the Second World War. This is the signing of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is the first document ratified by the community of world nations that sets forth that fundamental rights are to be universally protected. It contains 30 rights that together form the basis of a civilization where all people can enjoy the freedoms to which they are entitled and nations can coexist in peace. It's been translated into over 500 languages. Its first 5 articles include the right to equality, freedom from discrimination, right to life, liberty, and personal security, freedom from slavery, and freedom from torture and degrading treatment. Other articles include the right to a nationality and freedom to change it, right to rest and leisure, right to marriage and family, freedom of belief and religion, and right to education. What causes my concern, however, after this elaboration of how we came to human rights, is that despite its worldwide acclaim, abuses continue today which violate the spirit, intent, and actual human rights of this charter. In addition, there is some cultural argument, especially among Muslim nations governed by Sharia law, that the Declaration has a Western origin and secular understanding. So, addressing all mankind, Baha'u'llah reveals that ye are the leaves of one tree and the drops of one ocean. Ye are all the leaves of one tree and the drops of one ocean. He also states that know ye not why we created you all from the same dust? That no one should exalt himself over the other. Ponder at all times in your hearts how ye were created. And finally, he says, religion is the greatest of all means for the establishment of order in the world and for the peaceful contentment of all that dwell therein. And looking at the last question, what stereotype do you least want to categorize you and why? I would offer that the attitude that I am just a woman cuts the deepest wound of all. In the 1980s, I was a rancher raising 4 kids in the Deer Lodge Valley. I experienced God in all my responsibilities. In the early morning dawn, while I irrigated, in the midnight moon when I was calving, in the waves of wheat while harvesting, and in the miracle of my growing children. When I prayed, I called on an exalted God, a faithful one, a glorious one, a peerless one, an eternal one, a single one, a just God, a gracious one, a generous one, a Lord of bounty, a most merciful one, a most compassionate one. I come from a long line of matriarchs who worked the land. They were ordinary women living in extraordinary times. My great-great-grandmother was pawned off at the age of 16 to a husband twice her age. She hacked her way through the wilderness from upstate New York to Minnesota, birthing 13 children along the way. The Sioux Indians were losing their homelands in the Black Hills of South Dakota when my great-grandmother married a bullwhacker and followed him up the Missouri River to Fort Benton, Montana, only to become widowed with 4 children. My grandmother was an orphan when suffragists led the first march on the White House and women won the right to vote. My mother attended a 1-room schoolhouse during the Great Depression, a daughter of homesteaders. Her generation of women were America's secret weapon who mobilized to meet wartime needs. I am a baby boomer, the first generation to graduate from college and the first to use the birth control pill. My daughter is a mother with a career, and her generation is fighting for equal pay. She and I stand on the broad shoulders of powerful matriarchs. So it is no wonder I believe women and men are equal and always have been. This spiritual truth, however, has been suppressed throughout most of history. I believe human prosperity would increase exponentially by eliminating impediments that have obstructed women and men from standing shoulder to shoulder as essential partners, working together to build a flourishing world civilization. The Baha'i quote that illustrates this point says, "The world of humanity has two wings. One is woman and the other man. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible." Another quote says, "Women must make the greatest effort to acquire spiritual power and to increase in the virtue of wisdom and holiness until their enlightenment and striving succeeds in bringing about the unity of mankind." And finally, Baha'u'llah says, "Blessed are ye, blessed are ye. Verily ye are worthy of every gift. Verily ye deserve to adorn your heads with the crown of everlasting glory. Because in sciences and art, in virtues and perfections, ye shall become equal to men. And as regards tenderness of the heart and the abundance of mercy and sympathy, ye are superior." Testosterone and estrogen may make the human body male and female, but I believe we all aspire to similar virtues, like generosity, compassion, courage, creativity, enthusiasm, excellence, gentleness, honor, justice, love, mercy, peacefulness, service, truthfulness, unity. The happiness of mankind will be realized when women and men coordinate and advance to equally, for each is the complement and essential partner of the other. Here are some examples, I think. A balance of power and leadership between women and men enhance the well-being of world citizens. Equal participation in meaningful decision-making borne by both women and men benefits everyone. Cooperation between women and men stem the tide of growing inequality that threatens the stability of nations. Rising generations are given the opportunity to walk a more meaningful path when both women and men are educated. Where women thrive alongside men, they walk the path of prosperity together. Alliance among women and men lend potency and vigor to governing institutions and other constituents that comprise society. Harmony among women and men cultivates a higher nature of justice. Synergy among women and men energize creativity and invention. Common cause between women and men encourage a sense of service and social responsibility. Nurturing the intellectual powers of both sons and daughters makes available an abundance of skills and talents necessary for meeting the needs of the age. In the family, when daughters are included in decision-making and sons are encouraged to care for the household, character is created. As women are the first educators of the next generation, giving emphasis to their education enables a more meaningful life for all members of the family. I ask you, who can fully envision the great heights to which humanity will soar when the wing of woman and the wing of man fly synchronized in both purpose and strength? In closing, I leave you with a Baha'i prayer for unity. O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, lead them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord. So once again, I thank you for the opportunity to tell my Baha'i story. I would enjoy listening to yours if anybody of you would like to join the conversation. Thank you.